Welcome to another episode of the DNA of Things, where we explore the incredible intersection of science, health, and innovation. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Koenig. Today, we have an extraordinary guest, Dr. Andrew Brandeis, CEO and co-founder of OK Capsule. Dr. Brandeis is a naturopathic doctor revolutionizing the supplement industry with precision nutrition solutions. So, if you have been itching to know what are the right supplements, what are the right combinations, how do I get a precise blend just for me, I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. We're going to dive into Dr. Brandeis' personal journey from health-conscious teenager to a pioneering entrepreneur in personalized supplements. We'll discuss the power of precision nutrition, the role of supplements in chronic and acute health management, and how OK Capsule is making high-quality supplements accessible and convenient for everyone. You'll learn how small, consistent changes in your supplement routine can significantly impact your long-term health and well-being. Let's dive in. Dr. Andrew Brandeis, founder of OK Capsule, and many other things, which we're going to dive into, among them naturopathic doctor. Thank you so much for joining me today on the DNA of Things.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I've had the benefit of, having some back and forth discussion with you, 6 months to a year. I've got to see, what has come into being and form with OK Capsule. And I want to dive into that because I think, precision supplements, precision nutrition is just an area of, intense interest for this audience, but I think opportunity to for the individual to maintain agency over their health. Nutrition is medicine. I'm preaching to, the naturopathic doctor. But, before we dive into, OK Capsule, I'd love to learn about you. Like, how do you get from maybe even before being a naturopathic doctor to where you are now? And I think democratizing precision supplementation, which is no small feat. So to the extent that you'd like to share, I'd love to learn about your personal journey and how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, I'd be happy to tell you. And what we were talking about just before we started recording was the sort of line between personal and professional personas.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started practicing medicine, I thought I needed to act like a doctor, act a certain way. And now that I'm in my career a little further, those two personas have blended, and I am what I am. You get what you get. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm constantly learning, but I'm trying hard not to hold anything back, be fully revealed, and, live a life of purpose. So to answer your sort of question about my journey, how did I get here? I've always had a pretty strong interest in my own personal health. I grew up in New Jersey. I remember SnackWell cookies. I remember the whole fat-free movement in the, I guess it was 80s. And none of it ever really sat right with me. I don't know why. I didn't have much education, but just something felt off. And when I was about 16, I got into eating organic food, what I thought was healthy food at the time. And I was very just odd compared to the other people I was around in suburban New Jersey. My parents thought it was very strange when I brought my own food to a restaurant with them. Over time, I learned more. I decided I wanted to get a real education in natural medicine and got an undergrad in nutrition and then went on to become a naturopath. I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned is that medical school prepares you for what they call practice, right? I'm practicing medicine, and it's called practice for a reason. You get out there and you just start practicing. You don't know what to do when you get out of medical school. You know kind of what not to do, and you know what to look out for. But over the course of practicing is really where I learned how to, what good medicine looked like, what it looked like for me, my family, my patients, what I was good at, what I was not good at, what I was interested in, what I was not interested in. And over time, I decided practicing medicine wasn't really for me anymore and wanted to move on to something else.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, and I see your track record is such that, 2008 you would have been graduated and started practicing, but then there's, this stream of entrepreneurial pursuits. So share practice, Orchestra One, entrepreneur residence with Mega Food, Pharmabite, and now here we are at OK Capsule. So just over 10 years from completing the I suppose your professional degree in 2008. So 2019, you're founding OK Capsule, and here now we are 4 years into it, and you obviously this pursuit of making supplements, nutraceuticals accessible stems from this kind of inner quest to provide, it seems to be, high density quality food ingredients to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I could tell you where that came from.
Yeah.
When I practiced medicine, I had an urgent care center in the Mission in San Francisco. So it was kind of the time when the Mission was transforming from it was being gentrified. It was going from something to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an interesting neighborhood. And so my patient population spanned from sex workers to VCs.
Wow.
Got to see a lot, learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the key takeaways for me was, and I'm going to totally generalize here, so don't hold me to this, but at a high level, pharmaceuticals tend to work really well for acute illness, and supplements tend to work really well for chronic illness. And oftentimes, acute illness could turn into chronic illness, or if you have chronic illness, you might have acute flares. So I became, I think, pretty adept at wielding both tools, pharmaceuticals and dietary supplements. I worked in this clinic with about 4 other medical doctors. I was the only ND. So I learned a lot from them. I think they learned a lot from me. And it was a great moment just for my education. And I left with this idea that, like, wow, supplements are really powerful. But I also learned a lot of the downsides, and I'll tell you what they are here. So supplements work if they're high quality, right? What's on the label is actually what's in the pill. You use the right supplement for the right thing, so your expectations are met. And lastly, you actually have to take them. We call that compliance, right? You have to actually comply with the treatment plan. And a pharmaceutical does a really good job of delivering a big bang in a small pill that's generally taken, one twice a day or whatever. Supplements are different in that you generally need to take a couple of them a few times a day for much longer, because you're not trying to really, like a pharmaceutical, you're really trying to like shift the physiology in a very specific way. Supplements are more kind of, again, I'm generalizing, but they're a little more gradual and gentle on the body and helping your own physiology kind of get to work. So one of the things I saw was that compliance for pharmaceuticals is pretty easy. Single pill, short duration, 10 days or so. Whereas the supplements, I'm asking people to open multiple bottles of pills multiple times a day for a while. And not only was it hard for my patients to comply with these protocols, it was hard for me to comply with my own protocols when I'm a human. I suffer from things and need to prescribe supplements to myself. And I found it difficult for me to adhere to my own protocols. And I think of myself as a good user tester. And if it's hard for me, I can assume it's hard for others as well. So that's kind of where the original idea for, like, how do we solve that gap? How do we make it effortless for people to do the right thing? Removing friction is what all of this is about, right? Like all technologies thrive when you remove friction from the user experience. And that's really all we were trying to do here. So, you sort of asked about my aha moment. That was the seed. That's where it was sort of born.
Right. And we'll come to the perfect packs here in a second. I just got a question about, so you work, kind of shoulder to shoulder, MD, ND. What was it like to, get this more, I suppose, proactive, chronic management, intervention, right? Because
just by the nature, chronic, it's like, well, long-term, well, how do I know it's actually working? And, objections we get is like, well, you don't even absorb it. You're just, you're just urinating out the supplements. So you're literally, what do they say? Pissing your money away. So I remember hearing those things and, so obviously you don't believe that to be true. How do you navigate those discussions, with individuals that might have reservation about going on a supplement regime, but even also, perhaps those, trained in more conventional pharmaceutical intervention? I mean, or, is that not as big a problem anymore as perhaps it once was?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm, thinking back to when I was a weird teenager doing all this stuff. I think one of the reasons I wanted to become this kind of doctor was to have the science to like understand exactly what you're just asking me so I can have an intellectual conversation around the science behind why something works. I think these days more consumers are just open to supplements in general. I think COVID actually helped with that a lot. We saw more new users to the category than ever before during COVID. I think that's a good thing. I think there is snake oil. There's bad actors. There are some supplements that are either low quality, just ineffective, used for the wrong thing, et cetera. So you have to be skilled with the tools that you're wielding. But I could say the same for pharmaceuticals. It's hard to just say, hey, pharmaceuticals don't work. Okay, well, which ones for which thing? So I just think we need to elevate the conversation a little bit. The other thing I think is worth mentioning is that there's a pretty big pharmaceutical lobby. Like the pharmaceutical industry, big pharma, the pharmaceutical industrial complex, whatever people call it. Like it is a very large industry that has real interest, and they put effort into maintaining their sort of monopoly. I don't have an opinion on that, whether it's good or bad. It is. And the supplement industry tends to not have that. And I think the reason is pharmaceuticals are generally patentable, and those patents are worth a lot of money. And supplements generally aren't because they're natural products. So there's just less money in the supplement industry, probably by tenfold. So I think that's really the core of the issue that you're bringing up. I don't think it's the science or the evidence. I think it's just the nature of business.
It's interesting. It made me think of another, kind of thought I had in the grocery store. And this actually kind of stems to what you said about, yeah, I was that weird kid that brought my own food to restaurants. And, I mean, especially like when I was competing as an athlete, you're especially of the standard that, hey, my body is a temple, because you don't go and, let's say, drink beer and eat nachos and then try and run a 400-meter race. Everybody listening will know how that is going to end. And so
Garbage out.
But, we were talking at the beginning, in so far as like, hey, becoming a dad recently, it's like, well, my idea of performance is different. It's really about like, how do I be a great father to my daughter? And, part of that is going to be health span and longevity and being able to lift her up and cognitively available for her, et cetera. And so coming back to this notion of food, who we're becoming has to do obviously with the food that we're putting in our body. And take a trip to the grocery store. And I don't know what it's like where you live, but where I live, I ran into this like interesting kind of play on the marketing where I looked at the handle on the shopping cart and it says crave more. And I kind of look around and I'm like, ooh, we're like the most obese province in Canada. And isn't craving kind of a lustful thing? Like, does this make sense? So I'm just like, I go into the grocery store kind of a little irked on that. And then I look around and I'm in the, basically remember where I don't know if they still have the bins where you can take out the candy and scoop it and put it in bags. And they don't do that anymore where I'm at. Cause people, I think they just kind of see it as free samples. So anyway, they're put into these bags of candy, pure sugar, basically.
Yeah.
And that whole candy section is actually one of the first things that you see, and it's sprinkled throughout the store. But it has this interesting caption that says "Everyday Essentials." And I thought a very interesting choice of words, "Everyday Essentials," especially when coming off of COVID. It was like essential stores will only remain open, for example. So I think about that. You're going into a grocery store and there's just those first two things, but then you get all the greenwashing elsewhere, like hey, this is plant-based, so it's good for you. And,
Mhm.
and like you said, I remember the fat-free days and the cholesterol-free days.
Mhm.
And it's like, is cholesterol good? Is cholesterol bad? It's like, so what is going on with the food education and the food marketing industry from your perspective?
I think Dr. Mark Hyman just published a book on this. I think it's called Food Fix. I haven't read
Mhm.
it yet, but I have it. I
Mhm.
plan to read it very, very soon. I think he dives into all of it, but I can certainly tell you from my perspective, just like the pharmaceutical industry has interest and they want to grow their business.
Mhm.
I think that's fine with any business. You want to grow your business. The food industry tends to do the same. And so I think what we need is just more educated consumers.
Mhm.
Like you're an educated consumer. You go around, you notice these things, but I think a lot of people don't. When you mentioned sugar, and it's this is as a parent, this is my one pet peeve that I've chosen to go all in on, which
Mhm.
is uh, I think the cruelest thing adults do to children is cover sugar in attractive colors and use it as rewards.
Mhm.
I, because children are just like their brains are designed to like want the attractive color things, and sugar is quite literally a drug.
Mhm.
We build a tolerance to it. It's toxic in large doses. We were never designed to ingest refined sugar like we are. And I think that is the single most sort of offensive food or thing, like what you just described in the grocery store. That's so offensive to me. It
Mhm.
offends me as a human, as a consumer. Like it shows that the store doesn't actually care about me. They care about their profits because they're selling drugs. And it, this is kind of ridiculous, but anytime a parent like my daughter's 9, and throughout her life, whenever someone has offered her a candy, something sweet with artificial flavors and colors, I offer their child a little cup of alcohol or whatever we're doing that the adults are doing at the party. And of
Boom.
course they freak out. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing? You're giving my kid drugs. You're going to
Yeah.
do the same with yours. You obviously think it's okay. And of course I'm doing this to prove a point, but it's the one thing that as a parent, I really, really care about. And I would urge every other parent to care about. Once your kid gets on that drug of sugar, it's going to be a disability for the rest of their life that they're going to contend with. It will affect the microbiome that they have for the rest of their life. They will constantly be trying to lose weight for the rest of their life. You're just setting them up for hardship. Whereas if you may not have to be as extreme as I am, but it, I think it's the most important thing as a parent to watch out.
Well, I mean, it is quite profound, and I don't necessarily want this to be that, kind of one of the Jeremy Koenig show here, but I think I'll share this just because I think it relates to food, and I think it can springboard us nicely into, why supplements, why now. So sugar, refined carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, however you want to frame them. I mean, it's quite powerful when you think about the body, for example, in a depleted state. So that is without a depleted state of carbohydrates or glycogen in the muscle tissue, where like I'll often go into these, kind of fasted and fed cycles. I've done that for sport performance. And so this whole notion of, carbohydrate loading, you kind of deplete by moving carbohydrates out of your diet, and then you introduce them back in with a certain process or program of water and salt, and your body just your muscles just suck it up, your liver just sucks it up. And I remember doing that, and I was like, whoa, like you want to feel like Superman, like do that, do a carbohydrate load. And then you look at like the remarkable difference in, your muscle, your tenacity, the water retention of it, and, the power output that you get from it. But then I thought about cattle industry. You can say you've heard about bad corn finished, right? And, when you go and you make organic food purchases versus, conventional, and it's like, oh, well, organic's so expensive. It's like, yeah, but the conventional that you're buying is actually not meat. It's sugar and water. So it may be like 1.5x in size, but it's maybe the same and definitely a reduced quality. So, we're talking about like kind of a ratio change. I want to make sure we save a little bit of time of talking about, good fats as well. Like obviously this needs a 10-hour podcast, but so I'll maybe segue this into the supplement conversation, where I used to be very much, I don't want to say synthetic, but like I think about the macros, I think about the micros, but I didn't think about, whole food sources. And, I'm, blessed. My wife is a holistic nutritionist. So I have the background in molecular biology, biochemistry. So we're able to harmonize this. And, Kristen actually worked extensively with supplements. And so, I showed her the perfect packs that I got, and she's like, oh, wow, like that's super intuitive. Oh my gosh, we can customize them for ourselves. What? Okay. And by the way, you can classify them by need. So AM need, midday need, end of day need, immunity. And then, so, obviously a lot of this is dialing back to micronutrient deficiencies as a result of inferior food supply. So I'm thinking here, it's like, what's the use cases that you're seeing? Well, first of all, maybe you can just describe the technology that you built, because that's what you said, you removed friction. So maybe if you describe that, we can talk about use cases.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
So let's just talk for a second about supplements in general. Why do I think they're good? So when I say supplements, I think of vitamins, minerals, and herbs generally. So like any of those. There are, I forget the numbers, I haven't looked at them in a while, but I was surprised when I learned percentage of Americans that have a nutritional deficiency. I want to say it was something like 17%, but it's been a long time since I looked at it. Probably refreshing. But my point is that, like, in this advanced society with a lot of obesity, I was surprised to find that people have a nutritional deficiency, and the number of people who have multiple nutritional deficiencies was also, staggering for me. So that was a shock. So vitamins, like the RDA, the recommended daily allowance that you see on the side of the nutrition label, on the side of the supplement packet, that's the amount that you need to avoid a deficiency in that supplement. So, say I don't recall the numbers offhand, but say the RDA, here, let's take a look. The RDA for, just kidding. I don't know here. Let's say the RDA for vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams. That just means you need to get 1,000 milligrams a day in order to avoid having a deficiency in C. But it doesn't tell you anything about how much vitamin C you want if your spouse has the flu, or your kid, is in nursery school and comes home with all kinds of weird stuff. Like, it doesn't tell you anything about how much vitamin C you should take there, right? So there's baseline, and there's someone's below baseline. You want to get them up to baseline, and that's really all the supplement industry has been. For like its history. But where we've gotten in the last, couple of decades is, well, okay, I'm at baseline. What can I do now to get above baseline? How can I optimize my health? Right. And so I'm more focused on health optimization, but I'll just talk for a second about deficiency. Vitamin D, most people have low vitamin D. And that's just because you make it from the sun exposure. And a lot of people spend their time doing what we're doing here, which is sitting in front of screens, talking to people inside. So a lot, I don't know the numbers, but a lot of people had vitamin D deficiency, and there is a strong correlation between elevated vitamin D levels and positive outcomes from COVID. I'm not saying it will prevent you from getting COVID, but it will make your symptoms and your mortality risk far decreased. So that's an example of bringing someone from below baseline up to baseline. But we also know that vitamin D is protective for a number of things. There's associations with here's vitamin D baseline, but we know if you can get your vitamin D up here, we know that it's protective against certain kinds of breast cancers. We know that it's good for the immune system, neurologic diseases. There's a host of things that getting your vitamin D up is beneficial for. So then my next question would be, well, what other supplements or vitamin, minerals, or herbs can get me from baseline and optimize my health? And that's really where I like to focus. I think preventing an illness is far easier than treating an illness, right? Treating a heart attack is a big deal. You sometimes get your chest cracked open. It's very expensive. There's a lot of recovery. Preventing a heart attack is really just, well, kind of eating right and exercise, right? It's a much lower force intervention. So it's easier to prevent. And that's where I like to focus sort of my so that's how Dr. Brandeis over here thinks about supplements. But now, like, if we're good, I can move on to like, okay, well, how do normal people access this, right? So one thing I learned that I'm a nerd. I like learning about supplements and what they're used for, but I learned that most people aren't. A lot of people just want to be told what to do, right? They might not want to know that melatonin is a hormone that is secreted by a gland in your brain and induces sleep. They just want to know, how do I sleep better? I don't need the science. Just tell me what to do. If it's a brand that I trust, I will take it. I'm like, okay, that's one type of person. And what I think is true about all people is that you have to make the thing convenient, right? You have to make the intervention something that they can do long term. The goal is to stay on the intervention long term. So how do we make it easy for people? And so this is where we're sort of getting into now like what we do at OK Capsule. I think that there's a number of supplement brands out there that have brand loyalty from their customers. They've been doing a great job for 50 years. And when you go into a Whole Foods and there's 17 different vitamin C's on the shelf, how do you know which one to buy, right? You tend to buy the brand that you're familiar with. Supplement companies aren't tech companies. They're not very innovative. The space hasn't really innovated in 50 years. I've seen supplement companies think that they're innovating when they add new ingredients to their product line. I don't think that's innovation, right? When I think of innovation, it's like, how do we disrupt the category? How do we leverage technology and remove friction for the consumer? So instead of creating the consumer experience that we did, which we'll talk about in a second, for our own brand, I know my strength is not consumer marketing. Like I just know that that's not my zone of genius. It doesn't get me going. I'm not super excited about it. And I didn't want to compete with the brands that already have loyalty and try to get the mega food customers, for example. I didn't want to get them over to my products because mega food does a great job with their pills. So the idea for the business is, how can we help the existing supplement companies create a convenient, effortless, personalized supplement experience for their consumers? And so that's what OK Capsule is. We are a private labeler so we're a contract private labeler. So we, other supplement companies contract with us to put their label on products. Could be their products, could be our own product. And then we ship them to their customers in their branding. But what we do is we ship in these personalized individual daily packets. And every single customer can get exactly what they need in a convenient form factor that they're willing to stick with. My personal pills, I've got like 8 pills in a packet, and I take like 3 of them in the morning and 3 of them at night. That's a lot of pill. Can you imagine if I had to open up all of those bottles twice a day? It would be 48 bottle open per day times 30 days in a month. I'd never do it. It'd be ridiculous. I'd like 1,000 openings of bottles in a month. But with this solution that we have here, I just tear open my packets, actually stack them up, and pour them into my hand, and I take it. So I think the packet experience versus the bottle experience is far more convenient, less friction. And I think we have data that shows we see better compliance and adoption. So that's like what Capsule does. One of the things you mentioned is this perfect pack experience. So we have a house brand at Capsule that's just a way it's more of like a demo brand for us to show our potential clients what our service is. And so we spun up this brand, Perfect Pack. And it's pretty good. So I send it to friends and family, the perfect-packs.com.
you have this incredible technology to disrupt the industry. And so enter Perfect Packs. You've solved the problem for yourself. And now we're bringing this technology at scale to remove barriers so that people actually take these life-saving supplements.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to democratize the technology across all supplement brands, not our own, but we did spin up a house brand mostly for us to experiment with, because one of the challenges of our business model is we're really far removed from the consumer. We're a B2B2C company, right? So business to business, like our customers are businesses, and we ship our product to their customer, but we don't really get any feedback from the customer to know how we should improve our product, right? So I think, when you're making products, you need to be really close to the end consumer to understand what's working, what isn't. So we spun up this brand to test some of this stuff. And that's what you're referring to, this Perfect Packs. And the two use cases that we're trying to accomplish on that site. The one is, there's the customer I mentioned earlier who says, I don't need to know anything. Just tell me, what do I need to do for better sleep? What should I be taking? I'm a 40-year-old man. What should I be taking every day? I get allergies. I need gut help. So we just made these packs: a gut pack, an allergy pack, a joint pack, energy pack for adrenal support, etc. But then there's this other side of it, which is for the sort of power user like you and your wife. And again, these are just the technologies that Capsule provides on top of a brand that we spun up. There's this thing we call it Pack Builder. And you can just go build your own pack. There's a portfolio of like 60 different products, vitamins, minerals, and herbs that are super high quality. These are supplements I take myself. And you can configure your own pack if you know what you want to take. And then there's the middle ground, which is, hey, I want the energy pack, but I don't like this one thing in it. I want to swap it out for something else. So on this website, there's the use case of like, just tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. I know what to do. And some kind of mashup. That's the experience you were talking about on.
Yeah. It's interesting. I like, what you said there. There's the do-it-yourselfer / biohacker, the person blessed with at least to know what questions to ask, like I my education, I'm grateful for that. Then there's other reputable brands that you're trusting and you're outsourcing that decision making to. Then there's, this middle of the road that seems to me is getting smaller, but I wonder if that's going to change. And that is these like boutique supplement stores where I found that, customers go in and they really like having that conversation with the owner and the personal reassurance. Oh, wait, I didn't know. I didn't know you were taking that medication, or I didn't know you had this family history. And it becomes much more conversational in terms around like shaping that precision blend. Do you see a use case for OK Capsule for those boutique stores?
So that was my first job. I worked in a health food store doing exactly that, being the person that was having those conversations. And what I realized was, I did this I started like 16, I realized that I was practicing medicine without an education or a license. People would come in and treat me like their healthcare professional. And I was, too stupid at the time to know any different. Looking back on it, I realized like sort of how not okay that is. These are people that might be like good hobbyists. If you work in one of these vitamin stores, you might know a lot, and there's nothing. I was one of these people, nothing wrong with them, but they're not necessarily trained healthcare generally. So that's a thing. I don't want to say it's dangerous, but it's probably not the best scenario. Before I answer your question, I want to point out that AI is a thing. It's here. There's going to be all kinds of health and wellness and medical AIs that you can chat with that know all of your family history, can get all of your labs. We're just moments away from this. So, are those vitamin stores going to leverage this technology, or are they going to be crushed by it? I have a story in my head where I can see, within a couple of years, it be just way easier. I know this because we have clients that are doing this. Way easier to have a chat with an AI online. It'll recommend the supplements that you should take. It'll be verified by a doctor before, it's gone. And then the customer can purchase it. And then I just wonder for how long do you really need that doctor in the middle? Because the AI is just going to get so good that the doctor the error rate of the AI will be better than the error rate of the doctor, right? So what are we? I think I'm being generous by saying we're 5 years away from that consumer experience. So I don't know. Does the mom and pop store need to exist? I hope so. I like the mom and pop store. I like going in there and being able to get the thing. We have a kiosk experience that they can use. They could put a kiosk in their store and they could have a personalized supplement packet with their branding shipped to their patient's home. Their customer's home, within a couple of days. I think that is a good sort of blend of the two, but I just don't know how long that can hold up because we've seen every other industry that can get crushed by e-commerce. So I don't know why this one would be very different.
I mean, a couple of things come to mind. First of all, it's just the reassurance that a human face and voice might give you. And who knows, maybe that's just endemic to my generation. Maybe the next generation that was born on the internet doesn't quite care so much or need so much of that personal reassurance. The other thing that I was thinking is, well, your AI chatbot is only as good as the questions you can ask it. And so how do you know the right questions to ask?
I mean, AIs can tell you what are the right questions.
I knew you were going to go there. Yeah.
I think I'm not an expert in AI. I don't think we need to go too far down that rabbit hole. I think the industry is changing. Every industry is going to be affected by it. And I think healthcare is no different. And what I think is sort of interesting, is like, what are the innovations that we are like capsules bringing to market, to ride this wave of, advancement that we're seeing in healthcare. So as I kind of mentioned before, supplement companies are not very innovative by nature. They don't necessarily have like an R&D tech team, like they've been kind of doing the same. It's an sort of entrenched industry that's been doing the same thing for a while. And what we are trying to do is we're Silicon Valley tech guys. We're trying to take our iterative MVP process and bring it to an industry that I care deeply about. And I think it's working. So, you had asked me sort of current projects or initiatives. And I think the ones that I mentioned already was like this, we call it packs on demand. So like a pre-made pack that just makes it very easy for a supplement company to offer an adrenal pack, a stress pack, et cetera. And you have the technology that allows that same supplement company to offer a truly personalized experience where the customer could create their own. The other thing I'm really excited about is our packaging innovation. So we think of ourselves as a tech company, but we did something very cool in packaging that I just want to take a minute to talk about. From an operations perspective, it's very difficult to ship 10,000 orders in a day that are all unique. Like we do what's called delayed differentiation. We delay the differentiation of our product to the very end of the production line, and we produce thousands of different unique orders at a time. And we do this for different unique brands. So there's lots of layers of complexity here. So it was sort of an operations nightmare. And I think we came up with a very cool solution. So one of the problems we faced was the supplement come out of the machine in a roll of like generally 30 packets. It's like a month supply. And, the roll, you can see it look kind of like this.
Yeah.
And then this going in just like a square box. And it was kind of ugly. It wasn't being dispensed very well. It didn't roll. It would get caught. And when you get to the end of the roll, it would fall in the box and the consumer would have to go in and like fish it out. So it was not a great packaging experience, but we're sort of limited. We get thousands of different ones of these at a time. And what we invented and patented this packaging system, which has this we call it a cartridge, kind of made out of like the same thing you'd expect an egg carton to get made out of. So it's disposable, but it's highly functional in that we put the roll inside this cartridge and it pulls out, it dispenses one packet at a time. Packets don't fall back in. It's recyclable, biodegradable, made of wet paper pulp. And this was it took us a good year to sort of invent something that would work with our operation line for all of our different customers. And then this cartridge goes in a variety of different sleeves that we might have, from a disposable sleeve to a reusable sleeve. And so the cool thing is we can ship just this cartridge, and then the consumer has this nice experience of this product that their packet dispensing. So we invented that, we patented it. And I think every other company that uses the machines that we do, like PillPack, for example, we use the same machines. They don't have this sort of unique design. I don't know if it would work for their use case, but we're very excited to sort of license our patent out and our designs here, because we think it's just a far superior consumer experience than I've seen with any of the packet that are available on the market.
Well, it's really interesting to be, walk through that. And, for folks who are just listening to the podcast, it is essentially, like a paper towel roll, like easy, accessible, and essentially organized by according to, you and what your needs are. And, I think about, you've got that physical analog technology. And then I think about, as you start to get to know customers, and as we start to get to know, if I go back to what you're talking about with the RDAs, life event type of specific, call it, one-offs or specific seasonal packs, really, we can start to anticipate, right? So cold and flu season, you think about the, sun exposure, vitamin D, the inflammation associated with that really is interesting, because you can start to get to a place where you're anticipating your customers' needs. And because it's not necessarily taking the same supplement forever, it's about taking the variety. So I expect that there's going to be that innovation coming down the pipe, where you stay with, your technology as this technology that underpins the customer experience. And now we can start to anticipate what the customer needs are, broadly, and then precisely based on how they move across their lifespan and their health span. I made the mistake of only booking us for 45 minutes, and I know you're super busy. I can go a little longer, or I can go to wrapping us now. What are your thoughts?
I've got about 10 more minutes.
Okay. Well, the wrap takes about 10 minutes. So why don't we kind of ease into future trends, personal growth. So let's think about how you started, this kind of pain that you felt yourself, how you're actually positioned to, I think, address the issue of compliance, which is the barrier, or perhaps a major contributor to chronic health issues. We talked a little bit AI. This podcast isn't about AI per se. We can't ignore it. What does the future look like? What does the future look like now that, OK Capsule has this analog digital confluence, really interfacing with the customer? What are you most excited about in the next, say, 1 to 5 years?
I'm very excited about this lifespan, health span idea that seems to be growing in popularity. And I think it's because our generation is aging, and we're realizing, wait a minute, I can optimize this, right? I think my parents' generation, maybe not so much. They might have been more just willing to kind of take what comes to them. But I think our generation is wait a minute, I want to push back on aging. And so I'm really excited about the new products that are coming to market that have good science behind them for improving health span and lifespan. I think NMN is an example.
Right.
If you haven't heard of NMN, I would look into it. It's a molecule that your body naturally produces, involved in a variety of, we'll say cell maintenance, and the amount of it that you produce decreases as you age. So something that if you supplement with and add back in, you'll likely experience benefit. And David Sinclair, I think, is one of the pioneers that's doing the work on NMN and giving us really good science to follow. So the confluence of it's not just going to be NMN. There's going to be a host. Let's say there's a dozen new pills that are on the market in the next 5 years that everyone wants to take. But like I said, no one wants to open 12 bottles twice a day. So this idea of just getting a personalized packet, and all you have to do, keep a packet, put it in your pocket, in the morning, and sometime during the day, you have to tear it open and take it. It's very different than having to remember to go into your kitchen, open the cabinet, take out the bottles, open the confluence of health span with convenient, frictionless packaging, I think is a winner. And I'm really excited because of the business I'm in, but I'm also excited for all of the people that are going to benefit from being able to comply with it.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I spoke with a founder of more of a data tech based, like longevity around precision medicine. And the name of the company is Longevity AI. I'm sure there's going to be synergies for you.
Oh,
Yeah. But because it's actually connecting doctors to data. But there also needs to be, potential. Well, there already is, it seems, in the scenario that you talked about, instances of doctors connected to the AI requisition. And again, the future that you outlined as a real possibility as well, to what extent are humans preserving friction that we don't need anymore?
preserving friction just hurt me to hear.
Yeah, I know. So, but yeah, right. So what the guy Leitersdorf was saying of longevity AI was, we want to measure, number of years added to life. And I suspect that there's a similar, KPI that we can probably look at. Another conversation I had was, the folks at Thorne, Dr. Nathan Price, on this concept of a digital twin, and seeing, your health start to decline predictively, but then you can kind of detransition that, is what he called it. And it seems to me like the intervention, are these kind of longer term applications. The big thing is, I suppose, how do you help people with the habit, which is to me, it seems is the major contribution you're making. So it would be interesting to get some thoughts around, that KPI in terms of the effect your technology might have actually on adding health span.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of those KPIs, there's your chronological age,
Yeah.
and then there's your biological age.
Exactly.
And the company Tally Health, one of David Sinclair's companies, gives you a saliva test where you can test your biological age, and that's I think the KPI that you want to see decrease over time. Your chronological age is what it is.
Yeah.
But your biological age should decrease as you do all of these interventions. And
Amazing.
I think they've got a great company where you can, get those tests and do it at home.
So, like I said, I should have booked a 6-hour podcast. We're definitely going to do this again, because I suspect that there's something I want to look into more in terms of, maybe putting together a special offering for our listeners. But, to the point of our listeners, how can folks hear more about you? Where can they find you? Like, what are your social handles? How do I connect people with you?
I try to stay out of those spheres, because you tend to get inevitably there's always haters out there. And then you end up spending your time like dealing with the trolls. But my Twitter handle is mostly H2O, because really what I feel like is sitting in this chair is just mostly a pile of water.
Love it.
And I don't really post much there on this kind of stuff. But I think on LinkedIn, I think you can just find me at Andrew Brandeis, and that's where you'll find the more professional side of me. But if you are interested in the weird stuff,
yeah, right. So Dr. Andrew Brandeis on LinkedIn, and that's where you and I are connected. Brandeis, that's where you and I are connected. And yeah, I mean, that's people that might connect with you personally there, but there's also businesses that could also connect with you there. And I assume also
for sure
at is it OKCapsule.com? Was that where people would find you?
OKCapsule.com. And the brand that I mentioned where you can get the consumers can get their, try out the service is perfect-packs.com.
Right.
And we could do a discount code. We'll just make it up on the spot here and just say it's sequencing 2024, and we'll put that on the site with a discount code for your listeners.
That sounds great. Okay. I will engineer that and put it in the show notes. So
cool.
That'd be really fun to see. Okay. Well, Andrew, I can't thank you enough for
my pleasure.
The conversation, and congratulations. Really excited to have you back and discuss how business is going. So thank you so much for your time.
Cool. Thanks, Jeremy. It's great to talk. As always, we'll do it again.
All right. That's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the DNA of Things. I hope you found today's conversation with Dr. Andrew Brandeis as enlightening and inspiring as I did. You'll remember we explored the transformative potential of personalized supplements, the importance of compliance in achieving health goals, and the innovative solutions OK Capsule is bringing to the market to help make this a reality. Remember, small, consistent changes in your health routine can lead to significant improvements in your overall well-being. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Let's spread the knowledge and empower more people to take control of their health. For more insights and updates, follow us on social media and visit our website at drjeremykoenig.com. Until next time, stay healthy and keep exploring the fascinating world of science and innovation, health span, and longevity so that you can achieve and extend your human capability.